So I have some rods that we can take the wash basin downstairs. I'm going to try and come down and start it and load it,
Okay.
but it won't be till after church because about between 11:30 and 12. Other people like to talk a lot, others not so much. I didn't sleep in, you were a good kitty. All right, gonna go back to my dining room, the office. I think it's a multi-purpose room. Hmm. 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 Oh. Hmm. Hmm.
let's do a little more.
Okay.
Good morning, All Souls Church. Welcome to this beautiful, very last day of May. Yes, did you notice the warmth as you left your house this morning? Quite a contrast from yesterday. Welcome, welcome. We're so glad you're here. And whoever you love, wherever you're from, whatever your concerns, you are welcome here. And we like to make sure everyone feels welcome. So I'd like you to stand and greet each other and be a church together this morning.
Oh my gosh.
So nice to see you.
Yeah, it's actually really nice to meet you. I've heard a lot about you.
Oh.
Face painting queen. Face painting queen.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thanks for doing that. He got the arm art in the other room.
Jane, you're just in time. Welcome, welcome. We do this so very well. Settling in, settling down, being in this beautiful space together on this beautiful day. Thank you for everyone who traveled a distance to be here. Today we're going to welcome into the pulpit a retired Unitarian minister, Barbara Threet. She says, think of it as the number 3 and just put a T on the end of it. And she comes to us from Plainville, Massachusetts, but she's also an interim minister in Bennington, Vermont, and Rutland, Vermont. So she's a traveler. And we welcome her this morning to our pulpit. So anyone who's new, I don't see any new faces today, but if any, we do have one person, wonderful. We invite you to introduce yourself during our Joys and Sorrows time, and also to sign our guest book in the foyer. So one by one, we're building community here. So let's take a moment now to settle down. I invite everyone to breathe. Breathe deeply. Come into this room. Be present. Be connected. Be focused. Be at peace. We come together this morning to remind one another to rest for a moment on the forming edge of our lives, to resist the headlong tumble into the next moment until we claim for ourselves awareness and gratitude, taking the time to look into one another's faces and see communion. This house of laughter and silence, memory and hope is hallowed by our presence here today. Let us take a time for quiet reflection as we listen in silence to the prelude.
Beautiful, Laura. I invite Maria to come forward now and light the chalice. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in gratitude for this day and this community, and in celebration of the life we share together. Our opening hymn is number 8 in your gray hymnals, Mother Spirit, Father Spirit. Please rise and embody your spirit. Song in the forest sounds the congregational covenant are in your order of service, and it looks like your custom is to sit down now. Every church is different. I'll read the first line and then you'll read the rest with me. In this house we covenant with one another to create a community built on a foundation of love, to work together to promote equality, justice, and peace, accepting responsibility for our individual acts, embracing the liberation and working to end discrimination. Okay, kindness and support, and to serve with compassion and commitment, to listen respectfully and value our diversity as a source of our collective strength, to learn and grow together, generously sharing our time, talents, and treasures, to celebrate the joys of discovery, from the wonder of youth to the wisdom of age, to openly share our laughter and our lives, true reverence for the divine in all that is. Every week in our church we take an offering, which gives us the opportunity to exercise the generosity of spirit that supports All Souls and its many ministries. We see this as an act of giving, of growing more generous in our hearts and our actions, as essential to our spiritual well-being. We will now receive this morning's offering. Individually and together, we are building a world filled with peace and justice, love and joy. Each one of you, by your commitment of time, talent, and treasure, helps to make this grand vision real. Our reading this morning is adapted from the words of Robert Weston. Out of the stars in their flight, out of the dust of eternity, here we have come. Time out of time before time, in the vastness of space, Earth spun into orbit, Earth with the thunder of mountains, the boiling of seas, Earth warmed by sun and by starlight. This is our home. Mystery hidden within mystery, back through time. Ponder this thing in your hearts. Ponder with awe. Earth rising from storm and sea. Out of the sea, creatures move to land, rising to walk and fly. Out of the sea trembled life. Ponder this thing in your heart. Ponder with awe. Eyes to see, throats to sing, arms to embrace. Plants and animals, microbes and elephants, from the stars life has come. Ponder this thing in your heart. Ponder with awe. Tears and laughter, life and death, and life again. Out of your heart cry wonder, and sing out in joy that we live, that we have the gift of life. The soul should always stand ajar, writes the poet Emily Dickinson. The soul should always stand ajar, that if the heaven inquire, he will not be obliged to wait or be shy of troubling the soul. That's quite an image, the soul standing ajar, vulnerable to whatever comes along, receptive to sounds and sights outside of itself, ready to be stirred and sidetracked, perhaps even disturbed. The soul, that core place within us, hard to define, but it is perhaps that part which still remembers being part of the stars or the sea, which seeks union with other souls and at the same time is uniquely itself. It is perhaps that place that still remains unruffled, even as conflict or chaos or indecision or strong emotions swirl about on the surface of life. It sounds a bit esoteric, this soul, a bit fuzzy for rationalist Unitarian Universalists. Not all of us even believe a soul exists, or we want to talk about it. Maybe we should leave such matters to private contemplation. Except over and over I hear people say they want more spirituality. I heard it from fellow UUs before I even entered ministry, and UU colleagues hear it all the time in our congregations. And lest we think spiritual hunger is endemic only to UUs, my Baptist and Methodist and Jewish and Catholic colleagues report the same language and longing in their congregations. In the media, we learn that fewer Americans are attending church regularly these days. There's been a recent change in that, but in general, it's going down. And they're affiliated less with organized religion. But an increasing number of people consider themselves not religious, but certainly spiritual. So what does that mean, spiritual? What is a soul? Webster says that spiritual is pertaining to the spirit or the soul as distinguished from the physical. Spirituality, according to Webster, is the quality of being spiritual. And soul is that distinct part that's not physical. These definitions of spiritual or spirituality or soul don't seem terribly helpful to me, with each word defining each other in quite a circular and useless manner. There are other words, though, which might be more useful. Biblical Hebrew has a wonderful word, ruach, which translates as breath or wind or soul. In the first Hebrew creation myth, God breathes its own breath into a body formed of clay, and that breath becomes the soul, the life force, bringing animation to the clay. The soul is formed by the wind of creation, the breath of some force beyond our understanding, but something which sustains life. Ruach is ineffable, both present and transcendent. It's a mystical life force, or some creative energy, some powerful breath of the holy that infuses and connects and enlivens everything and sustains life. So how can we find that which nourishes our souls now? How can we open that door, even leave it open a bit? What do we mean when we say more spirituality, anyhow? I suspect we mean a wide range of things. Some of us probably mean transcendence. We want to glimpse the sacred, whatever that is for us. Some of us want relief from the trials of life. We long for an island of calm. Others seek for inspiration or to be nudged out of complacency. For some, spirituality is a deeper connection with other human beings or with all of life. And for others, spirituality is a connection directly to the holy, to God. For others, God has nothing to do with it. Spirituality may mean wholeness or hope or love. It may mean some rekindled sense of wonder or awe, even of mystery. That concept, that longing for the Spirit, is just as common in theologies which aren't God-centered. And humans have yearned for that connection, which is beyond ourselves for centuries, millennia even. An excerpt from words written 4,000 years ago by the Egyptian pharaoh Akhenaten in his hymn to the sun. He writes, "A glory, eternal in life, beauty, power, love, that widening light revealing all faces of all colors. Mother, Father, your being is light and living. You touch the voices of all lands. Day, I give you the sun forever, the strength, the seat of power. Eternal is the light. You are the watchful maker that sees light, breathes light, praises living. You are joy." Over 900 years ago, the Islamic Sufi poet Shamsuddin Hafiz wrote, "Cloak yourself 1,000 ways, still shall I know you, my beloved. Veil yourself with every enchantment, and yet shall I feel your presence. I shall salute you in the springing of cypresses and in the sheen of lakes, in the laughter of fountains, in tumbling clouds, and in brightly embroidered meadows. O most beloved presence, more beautiful than all the stars together, you gladden the whole earth and make every heart great. You are the breathing of the world." And from Jusami Shikako, one of the leading Zen poets of Japan, 700 years ago, a rare woman poet serving in the court of the emperor. She writes, "On this summer night, all the household lies asleep, and in the doorway, for once left open after dark, stands the moon, brilliant, cloudless. A door left ajar again, an opening established, something that allowed her to see the moon. An empty place from which to notice that which could not be seen if the door were closed up tightly. These are powerful images, typical of those used to try to describe the indescribable. It often seems that this sense of unity or awe or wonder arises not in a church, although it can there too, but often it's in nature or in human contact. At a recent gathering of UU ministers, we were asked to recall an experience of the sacred, something that lifted our spirits, filled us with awe or gratitude, confronted us with a hard reality, perhaps, that we had been trying to avoid, but that shook us out of the rhythm of our daily days. For some of us, that happened with another person, holding an infant, a deep conversation. For some, it was through music or poetry. Often it was in nature, sometimes with other people, but often in solitude. By the sea or climbing a mountain, the beauty of a sunset, even in the experiences of deep grief. Often these moments come when we suddenly notice something that we had overlooked or that we were usually too distracted to see. The doors to our souls were ajar, open to the unknown, without expectation, in some empty and receptive space. Sir Thomas Browne wrote a poem over 300 years ago, catching the importance of being empty, which is difficult, making a place for the holy to show up. If thou couldst empty all thyself of self, like to a shell dishabited, then might he find thee on the ocean shelf, and say, this is not dead, and fill thee with himself instead. But thou art all replete with very thou, and hast such shrewd activity, that when he comes he says, this is enow unto itself, 'twas better let it be, it is so small and full, there is no room for me. We so easily get so full. Our lives get so busy, so filled with things and dates and details, doors tightly shut to keep out any distractions so that we can accomplish and manage all those things that are on our to-do list. These days, it's very easy to get caught up in the drama of the moment, in the fear and angst and helplessness and frustration that many of us feel with large parts of our life. Howard Thurman wrote, the streets of our minds seethe with endless traffic. Our spirits resound with clashings and noise, while something deep within hungers and thirsts for the still moment and the resting lull. We humans know all too much about those clashings and traffic. Many of us do long for that resting lull, for connection with something both outside and deeply within ourselves. For some renewal and relief, we long to feed our souls, and that can be challenging. One of the principles that we Unitarian Universalists affirm is encouragement to spiritual growth. And the inspirations section on what looks like a flower over there from the UUA bylaws reads, direct experiences of transcending mystery and wonder are primary sources of Unitarian Universalist inspiration. These experiences open our hearts, renew our spirits, and transform our lives. We draw upon and are inspired by sacred, secular, and scientific understandings that help us make meaning and live into our values. These sources ground us Unitarian Universalists and sustain us in ordinary, difficult, and joyous times. We do recognize as UUs that we affirm and find awe and inspiration and comfort in many places and many sources. Perhaps it's easier to accomplish this quest for the sacred in a UU congregation than in some other religious communities. There is plenty of room in our congregations for those who find meaning in the teachings of the Buddha and for those who find meanings in the teachings of Jesus. People who observe Samhain and those who observe Yom Kippur are all welcome here. And if your theology changes over time, you won't be ostracized. We welcome questions. We welcome change. And you'll find a wide variety of opinions and experiences and interpretations among us Unitarian Universalists. But sometimes I think finding your own spirituality is harder in a UU congregation too. If you attend a Baptist church, you'll regularly hear lots about Jesus. And if you're part of a Buddhist Sangha, you'll focus on the teachings of the Buddha every time you meet. But that won't happen here. There is no central theology. You're welcome to observe Samhain or Yom Kippur, but you may be among the very few who find that meaningful. So your experience in a UU congregation will be very different from a congregation where everybody intentionally believes the same thing. And if your theology changes here, no one else may know it. In fact, there's a good chance that others don't know what your theology is to begin with. Which brings up one of our challenges If you're in a church where everyone believes the same thing, then the people who have time or interest enough to study details on that belief can kind of augment your faith. I was raised fundamentalist Baptist, and I often felt like there was enough of Baptist stuff in the air so that I didn't need to do a whole lot of work. It was just there. If the whole church is studying the book of Genesis so that sermons are drawn from it and children's lessons and special events are about it, you can coast a bit and still share in some common exploration. Here, our spiritual journeys are quite different. They're quite independent. You may discover something tremendously meaningful as you sit in Zen meditation each morning, or you may find an amazing passage in Rumi's poetry, or you may have an experience in your volunteer work that almost transforms you. But none of these experiences are necessarily meaningful or informative or even interesting to another of us. As UUs, we don't share a single common spirituality. That is, I think, one of our challenges and also one of our great blessings. But that's only true if we don't share with one another. If we become willing to open and feed our souls together, then there is that richness of, wow, you find meaning there, and I find meaning here, and how incredible is that? But first, we would need to be sure that the doors to our own souls are kept ajar. Just a little opening, a space. Not a 10-point plan, not a series of meetings on how to open the door and how far it should be and what to use as a doorstop. Very often, the first impulse for Unitarian Universalists when they decide to deepen a spiritual life is to do something big. We don't much like baby steps. We tend to jump in with both feet. So we'll go from no spiritual practice at all to 20 minutes of meditation every single day, starting now without fail. Or we determine to do Tai Chi every morning, or to journal every single day. And the truth is, it's not really very likely that we'll suddenly, unfailingly carve out those times, given our already overbooked schedules and the fact that all of us are creatures of habit, and changing habits is difficult. And the harsh reality is that not every meditation, or every prayer, or every walk will lead to illumination. It won't even lead necessarily to calm. In fact, many of the times it won't. It can be hard to stick with something that doesn't reward us immediately and consistently. We're used to a society where we get what we want in a hurry, or at least we try to. And then when we don't keep up our schedule or don't experience any breakthrough, we feel like we failed. Spiritual seeking is not practical, we decide. We tried and it just didn't work. We tried for weeks. Opening the door is different. It's simply creating space. And you can't borrow someone else's open door. When it's really hot, no matter how many of your neighbors open their door, your house stays stuffy until you open your own. It's that way with spirituality too. You'll need to open your own space without knowing what will appear. Just open a space, create a space, make an empty place. Turn off the news when you're driving. Sadly, it'll be there later. Leave the headphones at home when you run. Just stay quiet for a few minutes after you wake up and listen to what's around. Try to do so without judgment. When you're in conversation with someone, or even in a meeting, try not talking so that you hear more. Stop formulating your response and pay full attention to what's being said, and that's hard for us. Open a space and see what appears. We might even try opening the door of our souls to each other. This may be unfamiliar territory for many of us independent Unitarian Universalists, but it's not impossible. Try something simple. At coffee hour today, instead of discussing the business of a church committee or the latest fiasco in politics, and there are many, try opening your soul a tiny bit, setting the door just a little ajar. Ask someone where they felt inspired this week. What moved their soul? Where they felt connected. Tell someone about some moment that made a difference to you. Open your souls to each other intentionally, just a little bit. A community such as this can hold that sharing. And then be prepared for the unexpected. When you turn off the radio, you may hear something splendid. You may also hear the angst in your heart that all that noise has been masking. When you risk sharing a bit of what's deeply important to you, you may find a fellow traveler in unexpected places, and you may discover that someone you thought would care isn't really interested. There are no guarantees on a spiritual path. There are days you open the door and something interesting will happen immediately. There are plenty of days when nothing at all will happen or what appears isn't so welcome. Sometimes that quiet walk will contain unexpected birdsong. Sometimes all you'll hear is a jackhammer. You may be part of a conversation about things that matter and find that other people's ideas don't intrigue you all that much, or that yours don't interest them. Or you may discover a connection you would never have expected. The discipline of spiritual practice, of staying open, is just that. It's practice. It takes discipline to keep doing a thing over and over without immediate reward, even something as simple as opening your soul a bit more. And in a world where success is often measured by how many things you can accomplish, how busy you are, how many balls you can juggle, it can be very challenging to leave an empty space. I should be doing something. To just hold an empty space for the sake of emptiness. The door of the soul needs to stand ajar in order for it to grow and stretch and receive. But there's no guarantee of what you'll see or what will happen or the rate at which it will happen. You'll need patience and perseverance. And you'll need to be willing to continue paying attention and leave empty spaces that don't really feel productive. The door standing ajar may simply allow us to see and appreciate the wonder in the most mundane things. 2 final poems, the first by Barbara Crocker, called Ordinary Life. This was a day when nothing happened. The children went off to school without a murmur, remembering their books, lunches, gloves. All morning, the baby and I built block stacks in squares of light on the floor. And lunch blended into nap time. I cleaned out kitchen cupboards, one of those jobs that never gets done, and then sat in a circle of sunlight and drank ginger tea, watching the birds in the feeder as they jostled over scraps. A pheasant strutted from the hedgerow, preened and flashed his jeweled head. Now a chicken roasts in the pan, and the children return. The murmur of their stories dapples the air. I peel carrots and potatoes without cutting my thumb. We listen together for your wheels on the drive. Grace before bread. And at the table, actual conversations, no bickering or pokes, and then the drift off to homework. The baby goes to his car, drives them along the sofa's ridges and hills. Leaning by the counter, we steal a long, slow kiss, tasting of cream and coffee. The chickens diminished to skin and skeleton. The moon is a comma, a sliver of white, but this has been a day of grace. In the dead of winter, in the cold, hard knuckle of the year, this ordinary day has unwrapped itself like an unexpected gift. And the stars turn on, ordering themselves in the winter night. There are unexpected gifts in every day. The Czech poet Miroslav Hola writes, "Go and open the door. Maybe outside there's a tree, or a wood, a garden, or a magic city. Go and open the door. Maybe there's a dog rummaging. Maybe you'll see a face, or an eye, or the picture of a picture. Go and open the door. If there's a fog, it will clear. Go and open the door, even if there's only the darkness ticking, even if there's only the hollow wind, even if nothing is there. Go and open the door. At least there'll be a draft. Keep the door to your soul ajar and look out from time to time. Turn off the radio when you drive and notice the scenery. Leave the phone unchecked on the table for a few hours. Read a book of poetry instead of the newspaper. Breathe deeply. Inhale that air and remember that it nourishes us all, that the air and you and everything else comes from the stars. Especially in troubled, demanding days such as these are, leave space to see moments of beauty, of joy, of grace, of the things that are most deeply in your heart. Notice whatever comes along. And sometimes risk telling each other about it. Amen. Our next hymn is number 352, Find a Stillness. Is this one that you are familiar with? Yes. Good. We'll sing it through probably twice. Please rise and bow your spirit.
Find the silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. 352. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony. Seek the essence, hold the essence, let the essence carry me. Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find harmony. And just the first verse once more quietly. Find the stillness, hold the stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the stillness, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony. Please be seated. So now it's time in our service to share our joys and sorrows. If you have a joy to share,